We are now joined on set by our senior reporter, Jonathan Walsh. Jonathan, France 24 is broadcasting this evening your exclusive report entitled Iraq, a Revolution Murdered, which you produced with Amar Al-Hamedawi. And in this report, you take a deep look into the bloody repression of the October Revolution in Iraq, which was an unprecedented protest movement that started during the fall of 2019. That year alone, 600 protesters were killed. And you documented, in particular, the involvement of pro-Iranian militia groups to snuff out the movement. Can you start by reminding us exactly what that October Revolution is?
Of course, that movement was really born out of anger against extreme poverty, against the lack of infrastructures, against the widespread corruption among the religious parties that have been ruling the country since the fall of Saddam Hussein. The protesters also denounced the stranglehold of Iran on Iraq, and this is unprecedented because the movement took place in the mostly Shia south of the country, where the influence of Iran and the strength and the pro-Iranian militia groups are very strong.
Okay, and since its very beginning, there has been a bloody crackdown on that movement, Jonathan. Let's take a look at a short extract of your report.
Entre le 1er octobre et le 31 décembre de cette année-là, 2019, il y a eu 600 morts. Mais ce n'est pas rien, ce n'est jamais arrivé de 2003 à 2021. 600 morts, 21 000 blessés. 29 000 incarcérés. Donc, le degré de la répression était terrible, était terrible.
Security forces have accepted some responsibility, but insist that they have weeded the bad actors from among their ranks.
أدين القوات الأمنية التي استخدمت بشكل مباشر الذخيرة الحية، سواء يعني من خلال تصرفاتها الفردية أو إحساسها بالخطر وبالتالي الدفاع عن نفسهم من خلال استخدام الذخيرة الحية.
But the direct agents of the crackdown have never had cause to worry, despite targeting protesters early in the rebellion with illegal actions of extreme violence.
If you refer to snipers on the roofs of buildings, I can only confirm this was the case definitely in the early days of the demonstrations. Does that mean that these snipers were part of an official security force, or were they part of an armed group operating outside state control? I think it's the latter.
الجهات اللي متحكمة بالدولة ما رادت صوت آخر، لجأت إلى القمع. بالطبع منهم هذا الصور لدينا تحقيق عميق. لأن الدولة اتهمت بها، أجهزة الدولة اتهمت بذلك. نعم، أجهزة الدولة في ربما اخترقت.
No one doubts the involvement of the militias, but one key figure is regularly credited as the mastermind of the repression. Iranian General Qasem Soleimani was a frequent visitor to Iraq during the first months of the uprising.
Qasem Soleimani, en personne, avait mis en place un comité, bien évidemment, il ne l'a pas appelé comité de répression, c'était comité de stabilité et de sécurité, quelque chose de cette nature-là. Soleimani, en personne, élaborait le programme quotidien de la répression de ce mouvement de contestation.
So, Jonathan, the involvement of militia groups and Iran in that repression is clearly illustrated. What types of groups are we talking about exactly?
We're talking about Shia armed groups that have very close ties to Iran. In 2014, Iran reinforced massively those militia groups to fight the Islamic State group, but it was also a way for Iran to tighten its grip on the country. The armed group now represents a force that is completely out of state control, even if some of them are part of the armed regular forces.
Okay, and on top of the repression of those protests that you have mentioned, there's also a series of targeted killings that had been reported. Is that still ongoing?
Yes, and this is why the report is titled "A Revolution Murdered." We met many relatives of activists of the October Revolution who were murdered, and I think this is what is the most powerful part of this report. People clearly pointing fingers again at militia groups linked to Iran. It's very rare to hear those voices. So this is really something powerful in that report, and I think I have to pay tribute to the courage of those people who accepted to talk to us.
Thank you so much, Jonathan Walsh, for that little teaser and a bit of behind-the-scenes information for that report. As a reminder, his report, Iraq, A Revolution Murdered, will be broadcast tonight on France 24, Paris time.